Welcome to the video solutions for the NCFE Functional Skills English Level 2 writing paper for October 2019. In this video, we will go through the questions and you can get a better idea of what you want your answers to look like, as well as what to look out for when planning your answers. Before we look at the tasks, let's have a look at the mark scheme to see what you'll be assessed on during your writing exam. So you'll need to present information and ideas concisely, logically and persuasively. What does this mean? Well, information refers to facts. So you'll need to include certain facts in your answer. And ideas means your own ideas and opinions. You will need to present these concisely, which means that you're not repeating things and everything is written in a short and easy to understand manner. You'll need to present logically, which means that everything should be in a logical order and everything should flow on from each other. So each sentence flows on from the next. And persuasively, which means that you're trying to convince the examiner that your opinion is valid. You need to present information on complex subjects clearly and concisely. So this essentially means that your writing will have to be crystal clear and easy for anyone to understand. We've got that word concisely again, which simply means that we shouldn't be repeating things and we should try to make sure that everything is written in a simple way. Use a range of writing styles for different purposes. This means that we need to adapt our answers according to the audience and purpose that have been specified in the question. So, for example, if you're writing for a professional audience, you're going to be using a formal style. We'll see this in action in the answers. And finally, we need to use a range of sentence structures, including complex sentences and paragraphs, to organise written communication effectively. This means that we need to be using both short and longer sentences. So standalone sentences and sentences that connect different ideas together within them using connectives or commas. We also need to make sure that we're using paragraphs in our answers. Remember that each paragraph you use should address a different issue or topic. Altogether, these form the composition of your answer. And the composition makes up 55 to 60% of your marks overall. So you need to make sure that your answers are clear and your writing is appropriate. The next part of the mark scheme focuses on punctuation, spelling and grammar. So we are asked to punctuate written text using commas, apostrophes and inverted commas accurately. So you need to make sure that as well as including capital letters and full stops at the start and end of sentences, you're using commas in your answers. You may also need to use apostrophes and inverted commas. So that means quote marks. We need to ensure that written work is fit for purpose and audience with accurate spelling and grammar that support clear meaning in a range of text types. This means that your writing will need to make sense no matter what the purpose and audience is. Your spelling will also have to be accurate throughout your answers in order to achieve high marks. The weighting for this is 40 to 45% and 45% of your exam overall. So make sure that your spelling, punctuation and grammar are well revised so that you'll be prepared in the exam. Activity 1. Write a letter. There has been a lot of bad weather in your area recently, which has resulted in accidents to pedestrians, cars and cyclists. It has been made worse because the council has not carried out any gritting or salting to roads or pavements. It feels as if the council has forgotten about where you live. You decide to write a letter to the council. In the letter, you should include examples of what has happened and what you think the council should do. You should send your letter to the manager, Highways Department, Ivyton District Council, High Street, Ivyton, IV1 1VI. So what are we being asked to do in this question? Well, let's start by identifying the text type that we're being asked to write. So we have to write a letter. And what is our letter going to be about? Well, it's going to be talking about these issues on the roads. So there's been no gritting or salting on roads or pavements, and this is causing accidents in the area. So it's quite serious, and we need to be explaining the reasons why the council need to take action. We might want to give some examples of accidents that have happened in order to persuade them. And our audience is the council, so we need to be writing using formal language because this is a professional group of people. We've also been given an address at the bottom here that we can use to write the letter. So let's take a look at a model answer to this question. Dear Sir or Madam, I am writing to complain about the treatment of my local area by the council. The recent storms have resulted in an increase in accidents in the area. The roads are slippery, so more cyclists are falling off their bikes, and elderly people are falling over, putting themselves at risk. Vulnerable populations are suffering because of the condition of the roads in this weather. Furthermore, the high-speed winds have resulted in trees falling over and blocking the road, making it dangerous to traverse without risking serious injury, especially as so many tree roots are destroying the road anyway. I argue that this is the moral responsibility of the council. I am absolutely disgusted at the abandonment of this area by the council, who have simply refused to salt or grit the roads since the bad weather started. What do I pay my tax for? Is my vote meaningless to you? Rest assured, I will not be supporting you in the future unless this issue is immediately addressed. To solve this issue, I propose immediate gritting and salting of both the pavements and the roads. I would also like an apology from the council, as well as a concrete plan and timescale to sort out the roads being destroyed by tree roots. Yours faithfully, Jack Blue. So now let's think about how this student has addressed all of the marking criteria to provide a really good answer. And we'll start by looking at punctuation. So in this answer, every single sentence starts with a capital letter, and we have full stops at the end of each sentence. We also have capitalisation of proper nouns. So proper nouns include things like names, so we have Jack Blue there, and places like Main Street. And also we need capital letters for titles, so for example, Sir or Madam. So make sure that you learn where you need to use capital letters and you're using them correctly in your answers, and make sure that every single sentence starts with a capital letter and ends with a full stop. We've also got some commas in this answer, and they have been used to add some further detail to sentences and create sort of separation between different clauses within sentences. So for example, we've got so more cyclists are falling off their bikes, and then we have a comma, and then to add more information we have a connective here, and elderly people are falling over, and then we've got another comma before we add more detail saying that they are putting themselves at risk when they're falling over. This sentence could actually benefit from another comma here because we've got an explanation using this word so we should say the roads are slippery and then take a little breath, add a little comma in, and then continue with the sentence. So make sure that you're trying to use commas in your answer to add some additional information and separate out your clauses. Other punctuation that has been used in this answer includes question marks. So we've got some rhetorical questions here. What do I pay my tax for? And is my vote meaningless to you? And these questions have been used to persuade the reader to kind of point the finger at them and show them that they need to take action. If you feel confident using lots of different types of punctuation, then try to be ambitious and include a wider range within your answer. But make sure that whenever you are using a piece of punctuation, you know that you are using it correctly. Focus on making sure that you've got capital letters, full stops, commas and apostrophes used correctly in your answers. Next, let's consider grammar and spelling. So your sentences will need to be accurate and make sense on their own. And the grammar in this answer is really strong because everything makes sense and all of the nouns and verbs match up. So for example, we have I argue that. Now, because we have used the word I, we're talking about ourselves here, we've decided to use argue to match up with that word. Now, if we were talking about someone else, saying he or she, then we would change this argue to argues. So he argues or she argues. So make sure that all of your nouns and verbs match up just like that. And double check your answers for any unfinished or confusing sentences to make sure that your grammar is correct. In terms of spelling, this answer is also very strong. Spelling is correct throughout the answer, and we have some more difficult to spell words. We've got specialist words that have been used for the topic. So for example, we have accident, and we have populations, and we've got slippery as well. So some slightly longer, more tricky words to spell. We've also got vulnerable there, which has a silent letter within it. So try your best to get comfortable with spelling and make sure that your spelling is as good as it can possibly be. The best way to do that is practice as much as possible before the exam and check your spellings after you've written your answers. So when you're doing practice answers, make sure that you take out a dictionary or go on the internet to check all of your spelling if you're not sure. If your spelling, punctuation and grammar are really strong, then that will help to make your meaning really clear. Try reading out any answers in your head during the exam or read them out loud if you're doing a practice exam. This will help you to make sure that everything is crystal clear and will make sense to the reader. You also need to consider how long your answers are and how detailed you make them. It can be tricky to come up with details that are relevant for the question, but generally you can use the questions to support you with this. So let's think about the length of this answer to begin with, and we'll go back to the question. Sometimes the question will give you a word count to tell you how much that you should write. A word count hasn't been given in this question, so a good guide is to try and write 3 longer paragraphs or 4 to 5 shorter paragraphs in your answers. You want to cover everything that has been provided in the question, so fully answer the question by including a range of relevant details. What were we asked to do here? Well, we were asked to think about the bad weather in the area and the problems that have been resulting, so the accidents that have been happening, and then we've got an explanation that the council needs to be gritting and salting pavements, which they're not currently doing, and we're writing a letter to address these issues and to say what has happened and to explain what we think the council should do. And we've done all of these things in this answer. So in this first part here, they've explained that they are writing to complain about this local area and what the issues are. And then they have explained the issues. So they've said what has been happening and how the local populations have been affected by these problems. We've got a few more details about that in the following paragraph. And then they explain that they are unhappy with the fact that the council has done nothing to improve these issues. And finally, we have some suggestions as to what the council should do. So they should immediately grit and salt the roads, and they should offer an apology, as well as a timescale to sort out the roads, the tree roots that are destroying them. So all of this is really relevant to the question, and we've got additional details added. So we've got details about cyclists falling off their bikes, for example. Think of examples of accidents and things that you could include, and think of other issues such as trees falling over that might arise due to bad weather. If you're struggling to add more details, then go back to your plan and generate more ideas using a mind map. Then you need to organise your plan into a logical order that will make sense to the reader. Now let's consider formatting and organisation. Now, whenever you're thinking about how to format your answer, you should be considering the text type. And we've really helpfully got a reminder of the text type here. We need to write a letter. So what formatting features are required for a letter? Well, we need the name and the address of the sender. And that always has to be in the top right corner there. And then underneath that, you want to put the date. Then, aligned to the left, we have the recipient's address. So we're writing to the Highway Department at Ivyton District Council. If you had the name of a specific person, then you would include that there as well. So make sure that you have your addresses in the correct order and make sure that you've got the date included underneath the sender's address there. Then you need to include a polite greeting like dear sir or madam and a polite sign off as well. So we've got yours faithfully here. And the reason that we've used yours faithfully is we don't know the name of the recipient. If we did know their name, then we would use yours sincerely instead. So just make sure that you memorise that difference. And then finally, we have the name of the sender at the bottom. Make sure as well that you're consistently using paragraphs in every single answer that you write. This is really important to divide up information and make it easier for the reader to understand. You could try to include some more formatting and organisational features in your answer. So for example, when you're talking about the accidents, you could use bullet points to list the accidents and the effects that they're having. But that is not essential. It's just really important that you are remembering the format of a letter and you are including paragraphs in your answer. Next, let's consider whether this answer is cohesive. So what does that mean? Well, it means that you have to link up your sentences together and join up your ideas so that everything flows in a really logical way. So in this answer, all of the sentences are flowing on from each other and they're all linked together. So when you write a paragraph, all of the sentences in the same paragraph should be about the same thing. So, for example, in this paragraph, they've said, I argue that this is the moral responsibility of the council. So they're saying that the council should be responsible for the problems. And then they have linked this to the next sentence where they say, I am absolutely disgusted at the abandonment of this area by the council, who have simply refused to salt or grit the roads since the bad weather started. So we're talking about the council and how they should be responsible in both of these sentences here. And in the second one, we've added more detail about what the problem is. They are not gritting or salting the roads. And then this is linked to the next couple of questions. So we've got, what do I pay my tax for? And is my vote meaningless to you? So because they are disgusted at the council not doing anything, these questions are really relevant to what has been said in the previous sentences. And then we have, rest assured, I will not be supporting you in the future unless this issue is immediately addressed. So here they're saying that they will not support them, they will not vote for them. So linking to that previous question there. And that makes the paragraph really cohesive. So all of it joins together in a really effective way. Paragraphs in the answer are also in a really logical order that make the entire answer cohesive. So we have an introduction explaining what the letter is going to be about, and then we have a description of the issues and the effects that these are creating. And then we have this paragraph giving the opinion that the council should be helping, should be acting within the community because they are receiving funds from the community and the community voted for them. And then we have some ideas about how issues could be resolved. So all of that flows in a really logical way, addressing the problems, saying that something should be done, and then explaining what should be done. So make sure that your answers flow in a logical order that makes sense, and make sure that you're using paragraphs to divide up your different ideas within your answer. Now let's think about language and register. So your writing will have to be adapted to the audience and the purpose of the text. You want to have the right kind of tone and style to match up with that audience and purpose. So let's go back to the question and remind ourselves of the audience and purpose for this question. So we are writing to the manager at the council, and that means that we're going to be having to use formal language because we're writing for a professional audience, even though we are complaining. We're going to write using quite a negative tone because we are complaining within the letter. We're explaining what has happened and what we think the council should do. So that is the purpose that we are writing for. And that has been done really effectively in this answer. So we've complained about the issues and told the council what action they should take. You don't know the name of the person in the council that you're writing to, you're just writing to a manager. So a generic address has been used here, and we've used yours faithfully. We've got a really formal style that has been used throughout. So we don't have any slang words, we don't have any contractions like can't, don't, won't in the answer. All of it is written in standard English and is very formal. We've got a negative tone because we're trying to persuade the council that the issues are really serious and are having a negative impact on the community. So we're trying to persuade the council that they should take action. So we've also included some persuasive techniques. So for example, in the first paragraph, we've got some emotive language here. We've explained that vulnerable populations are suffering. So that word suffering there evokes emotions within the reader. It convinces them that this is a really big problem and it's causing a lot of heartache for the local population. We also have some more emotive language when they say that they are absolutely disgusted at the council abandoning the local area and not doing anything to rectify the issues. So that's quite persuasive because it's sort of tugging on the reader's heartstrings, making them feel quite emotional. We also have a rhetorical question to convince the council to take action. So we've got, what do I pay my tax for? And another one there, is my vote meaningless to you? So that's really persuasive because it's kind of accusing the council of doing nothing and saying that people are paying for this and voting for you, so you should be taking action here. We've also got direct address. So this has been used to directly make the councillor responsible and explain that there will be negative consequences if they don't act. So we've got, I will not be supporting you in the future. So kind of drawing the reader into the text and making them feel responsible for these issues. So try to include some persuasive techniques whenever you're trying to convince readers to agree with you. Make sure that your entire answer is really well suited to the audience and purpose that has been given in the question. Finally, you should try to add a few longer, more detailed sentences to your answers. This will show the examiner that you can link different ideas and pieces of information together. So in this answer, we have the recent storms have resulted in an increase in accidents in the area. The roads are slippery, so more cyclists are falling off their bikes, and elderly people are falling over, putting themselves at risk. So this is a much longer sentence than many of the others that have been used in the answer. And this connects multiple ideas and pieces of information together. So we've mentioned the storms, and then we've explained that these storms have increased accidents in the area. We've then got a semicolon to kind of join two separate but linked sentences together. And it says the roads are slippery and then we've got the effect of this, so more cyclists are falling off their bikes. So we have that connective word so to provide an explanation there. Then we've got and to add another idea to the sentence. So, and elderly people are falling over. And then we've got a further explanation here that this is putting them at risk. So try to use a range of connective words and punctuation to link different ideas together within your sentences. Overall, this is a really fantastic answer to the question. It addresses all of the different points within the question, so it is a letter of complaint and it explains the problems and then suggests how the council should offer solutions. The answer makes sense and all of it flows really effectively. So we've got sentences that follow on from one another and paragraphs that flow in a really logical order. The formatting is correct for a letter, and we have accurate spelling and the correct use of a range of punctuation in this answer. The writing is also really appropriate for the audience and purpose specified in the question, and most importantly, the writer's meaning is clear throughout the answer. So now you've seen this example, try writing your own response to this question and then check your answer against each of the points in the marking criteria. So pause the video if you want to do that now, or you can continue watching and we'll move on to question 2. So activity 2 says that you must write an advertisement feature. You work as a volunteer at the Bain Animal Sanctuary. The sanctuary is desperately short of volunteers and your manager has asked you to write an advertisement feature to appear in the local newspaper. Write the advertisement feature from the viewpoint of a volunteer, giving details of where the sanctuary is, the animals you look after, the sort of work you do, and what you get out of it. The local newspaper has said that the advertisement features should be around 250 to 350 words. So now let's break down this question to see what we have to do. Let's think about the text type to begin with. So we've been asked to write an advertisement. So we've got to be persuasive because we are advertising something here. Now let's think about the audience. So they're looking for volunteers and we are looking to publish this in the local newspaper. So we're writing for a general audience within the local community of people that might want to become volunteers. So we want to try and appeal to these people in the local area. Finally, let's consider the purpose that we've been asked to write. So we are writing this from the viewpoint of a volunteer, which means that we are putting ourselves in a volunteer's shoes and explaining what we do, giving details of where it is, and the animals that you look after, the sort of work you do, and what you get out of it. So there's lots of different details that we've been asked to include here. And we've got to explain the location. Maybe we might say that it's in quite a rural area, for example. And then the animals that you look after, are you just focusing on rescuing dogs, or are we looking at a range of animals here? The work that you do, so what kind of things do animals need every single day? Will they need food? They need shelter? So think about the kinds of work that you would need to do for them. And then what you get out of it. So explain how you feel being a volunteer. What do you think is valuable about the experience? And our advertisement feature will have to be 250 to 300 words. So we have to make sure that we are staying within that word count there. But we've got plenty of details to write, so we should be able to come up with enough words for this answer. So now let's take a look at a model answer to this question. Recruiting new volunteers at Bain Animal Sanctuary. Would you like to work with adorable animals? Want to gain a fulfilling and memorable experience to add to your CV? Do you have a love for creatures great and small? Consider volunteering at Bain Animal Sanctuary. Located in beautiful surroundings at the heart of the Yorkshire countryside, our sanctuary cares for abandoned, sick and old animals who have sadly not found a permanent home. No animal is turned away from Bain. We have a wide range, from the more traditional pet cats and dogs, to cows, donkeys, owls, llamas and even reptiles. All of our amazing animals have faced tragic circumstances in their short lives. So a caring and kind nature is essential. We always lead with empathy and love as our first approach. The work is wonderfully varied and involves cleaning animal pens, feeding the animals, walking our many dogs, and keeping the farm animals brushed and looking their best. No experience is necessary, but a love of animals is key. What will you gain from volunteering with us? As a volunteer myself, I can attest to the sense of fulfilment gained from this role. Not only do you get a CV boost, volunteering is an amazing way to stand out from the crowd and impress employers. You will also feel a real sense that you are making a difference in the world and having a real impact on the lives of animals you are helping. For more information, visit our website or give us a call on 12345 678 901. We are always happy to hear from you. So just like with the previous activity, we're going to take a look through this answer and determine how it meets the marking criteria. So we'll start by analysing the punctuation. We have capital letters at the start of each sentence and at the end of each sentence. We have full stops or question marks or exclamation marks here. So they're the three options that you can end your sentences with. Think about whether an exclamation or a question mark would be appropriate. We've also got capital letters for proper nouns. So for example, we've got Bain Animal Sanctuary. This is an organisation, so we need capital letters for that. We've also got capitalisation of Yorkshire because that is a place. We've also got commas that have been used in the answer, and these add some further details to sentences, separating out different clauses, and they are also used to create lists in this answer. So, for example, we have located in beautiful surroundings at the heart of the Yorkshire countryside, and then we've got a comma to take a breath before we add some more information. So, our sanctuary cares for abandoned, sick and old animals. So we've got a list here of descriptive words for the animals. We've got abandoned, sick and old. And because we've got a list, we need to add a comma in there. So abandoned, sick and old animals who have sadly not found a permanent home. And then we have another use of commas to create lists. So we've got cats and dogs, cows, donkeys, owls, llamas and even reptiles. So make sure that you're including some commas in your answer whenever you want to create a list or separate out different ideas within a sentence. We also have a colon that has been used here, and this adds some further detail to the sentence as well. So this is kind of used to introduce the list here. Colons are really helpful for doing that. So no animal is turned away from Bain, and then we have a colon before that list is introduced there. We've also got question marks that have been used to create questions to engage the reader. So would you like to work with animals? Want to gain fulfilling and memorable experience? We've got exclamation marks, and these also engage the reader. So we've got consider volunteering at Bain Animal Sanctuary. We've got an exclamation mark in the title as well to draw the reader in. So it encourages readers to think really positively about the sanctuary. At the end of the second paragraph here, we've got a dash that has been used there. And this adds on related information to the end of a sentence. So a caring and kind nature is essential, and then we have a dash to explain that this is a core value of Bain Animal Sanctuary. We always lead with empathy and love as our first approach. We have a huge variety of punctuation in this answer. We've also got some parentheses, and these add some additional information into the sentence. So not only do you get a CV boost, volunteering is an amazing way to stand out from the crowd and impress employers. So this is kind of an aside almost, separate from the rest of the sentence, using these parentheses here to explain how this CV boost will work. And then we continue with the sentence with a comma afterwards. So try your best to use a range of punctuation within your answers and make sure that any uses of punctuation are correct throughout your answers. Remember, the most important thing is to make sure that you're using capital letters, full stops, commas and apostrophes if needed really effectively. Next, let's think about spelling and grammar. So, in terms of grammar, each sentence makes sense on its own, and we've got all the verbs and nouns matching up together. So we've read through the answer and we know that everything makes sense. Everything was really clear to the reader. Most of the spelling in this answer is also correct, and we've got specialist words that align with the topic that are a little bit trickier to spell. So for example, we have fulfilling there, and we have volunteering as well. Another specialist word that we've got here related to the topic is reptiles. So make sure that you are including words that are closely related to the topic, and try to include some words that might be a little bit trickier to spell. So again, spelling is all about practice, 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 and you should find different ways to practice your spelling and make sure that you are revising effectively if that's something you struggle with. Correct spelling, as well as correct grammar and punctuation, will help you to make sure that all of your writing is really clear to the reader and everything is making sense. If your answer doesn't make sense, then you're not going to get very many marks during the exam. So now let's move on and think about whether this answer is detailed and whether it is an appropriate length. Now let's take a look and see if we've been given a word count for this question. That's really important. So we've been told that we need to write 250 to 350 words. So this answer meets that word count. Make sure that you are meeting any word counts that have been given as well, because you could lose marks if you write too much or too little. The details that you include are also really important. So this answer is using appropriate detail because it addresses all of the different aspects of the question. So what were we asked to do? Well, we were asked to give details of where the sanctuary is, the animals that are being looked after, the work that is being done, and what are the benefits? What do you get out of it? And all of these different points have been addressed here. So they've explained the location, it's in the Yorkshire countryside, and they've explained the kinds of animals that they have. So they've got a wide range of animals, and then they give a list of the different animals that are there. They explain what the work is, so including cleaning the animal pens and feeding the animals, and they explain what will be gained from volunteering with us. So what are the benefits, what are the positive things? So altogether, a really fantastic answer that includes appropriate details. Whenever you need to add details to your answer, go back to the question and think about information or ideas that you can add. You can also provide slightly longer explanations using commas and connectives to add reasons for your ideas. But make sure that any details that you're adding are really closely related to the question, because if you're sort of veering off topic, then you will probably lose marks for that. Next, let's think about formatting and organisation. So what do we need to do here? Well, we need to identify the text type. And really helpfully, we've been told at the top here that we have been told to write an advertisement feature. So an advert is quite a tricky text type. It might not be something that you've had to write before, but whenever you are presented with a text type like this, then you need to think about text that you've seen in the past. So think about what other adverts that you've seen are including. You won't be able to draw any pictures or include images during your exam, but you could at least add a heading or some subheadings, or perhaps a text box for the contact details. So in this answer, we have some quite good formatting features. We've got a heading at the top there, and we've got some contact details at the bottom. These are quite key. Because we are advertising a job, we need to make sure that people know where to find further information and apply. So make sure you're thinking carefully about what the reader will need to gain from the text. Make sure that you are also using paragraphs to clearly structure every single answer that you write. So whenever you're introducing a new idea or a new topic, start a new paragraph. We don't have a lot of formatting or organisational features in this answer, and you could add things like bullet points or perhaps a numbered list. So you need to just get creative and think about the different ways that you could present information in a way that's interesting, engaging, and really clear to the reader. Next, let's consider whether this answer is cohesive. So are the sentences flowing on from each other in a way that makes sense? And do all of the paragraphs work in a logical order? So let's take a look at the second paragraph here and see how the sentences fit together. So we have an explanation of the location and a bit about what the sanctuary does. So it's caring for these animals that haven't found a permanent home. And then we have a bit of further explanation of this in the next sentence. So they're referring to these animals, saying that no animal is turned away, and they explain the wide range of animals that are there. So cats, dogs, cows, donkeys, owls, etc. The next sentence is linked onto this because we have another mention of these amazing animals, and then we have an explanation that they have faced these tragic circumstances. So a caring and kind nature is essential when looking after them. So all of the sentences follow on in a really logical way, and all of them make sense together. We also have paragraphs that flow on from each other. So we start with a heading, which gives sort of a brief introduction, tells us what this piece of writing is going to be about. And then we have some nice persuasive introduction here. So we're engaging with the reader using rhetorical questions whilst informing them what the advert will be about. So we know from these questions that the advert will be about working with adorable animals. We know that it will boost the CV, and we know that it requires a love for creatures great and small. So a really clever and persuasive way to introduce the advert here. We've then got an explanation of where the sanctuary is and some of the experience that is required here is talked about in the next paragraph. We've got details about the animals in there as well. So we've got an explanation of what the sanctuary is like, and then we're moving on to talk about the work that is involved in caring for these animals. So the work is varied, and then explaining what you'll do, and then finally what will be gained. So yeah, this is fantastic. You've got all these animals and this is what the work is, but what am I going to get out of it? Well, that's explained at the end there to really persuade the reader and show them that they can make a difference in the world and have a real impact. So this fully answers the question in a really logical way, and all of it flows on in a way that makes sense. We've got this these contact details at the bottom for a reason. You wouldn't want to include them right in the middle because that wouldn't make much sense. It might confuse the reader. So make sure that you're organising your answers in a really logical way. You'll also have to use appropriate language and register. So think about the audience and the purpose for your answers. This answer is really suited to the purpose of the text because we have a full explanation of what it's like to work at the sanctuary, and we've got a range of facts and opinions that have been included to inform and persuade the reader. Remember that when you're writing an advert, you should persuade readers while also informing them what the advert is about. We have a generally positive tone in this answer, and we've got some persuasive techniques that have been used. So, for example, we have these positive and emotive adjectives like adorable and love right at the top here, and fulfilling as well, to kind of engage the reader and make them think positively about the potential experience of volunteering. We've also got this list of animals here, and that is quite persuasive as well. So we've got an exclamation mark at the end to suggest that there's all these animals. It's a really fantastic place filled with all different kinds of species. We've got multiple exclamation marks that have been used throughout the answer, and these encourage the reader to feel more excited about the role. We also have some alliteration. So we have amazing animals, and that is persuasive as well. It's more memorable to the reader when they read that. Amazing animals, it just sounds really appealing. So we've got positive adjectives throughout, and we've also got address, direct address in the answer. So what will you gain from volunteering with us? Speaking directly to the reader there and drawing them in so that they engage with the text. It's really well suited to the audience. So we were writing for a general audience of potential volunteers in the local area, and we focused on a specific area. So we're talking about the Yorkshire countryside here. So make sure that you are using persuasive techniques if you are writing an advert, and make sure that you're providing facts, information as well. Make sure that you are tailoring your responses to the audience and purpose, and focusing on the purpose set out in the question throughout any of your responses. Finally, you will need to try to link up different ideas within your sentences. So try to include some longer sentences that have multiple clauses separated by commas or other punctuation. This will help you to link different ideas together. And so will using connective words. So you can use words like and to add additional information and ideas, and you can use words like but to make a contrast, or you can use other connective words to explain your ideas. So, for example, we have not only do you get a CV boost, volunteering is an amazing way to stand out from the crowd and impress employers. So here we've talked about the CV boost that we'll get, and then we've used brackets to add some additional information, a bit of an explanation as to how your CV will be boosted by this role. And then we have a comma to connect to the next idea. So you will also, got another connective there, also, you will also feel a real sense that you are making a difference in the world. So we're talking a bit about sort of the emotional experience that is created by the role. And then we have another connective word to add a further idea to that. So you're not just making a difference to the world, you're having a real impact on the individual animals, so the lives of the animals that you are helping. So try to connect your ideas together just like this. Not every single sentence has to be really long. In fact, that can become a bit difficult to read and it can start to bore the reader. So make sure that you're using a variety of sentence lengths. Use shorter sentences and longer sentences within your answers. So overall, this is an excellent answer to the question. Not only have we got accurate spelling, punctuation and grammar throughout the answer, we've used a range of punctuation to try and make the writing more persuasive using exclamations and rhetorical questions, as well as direct questions to the reader. We've got an answer that makes sense and everything flows really effectively. So each sentence follows on from the previous one really well, and the paragraphs all follow on from each other in a logical order. The writing is extremely appropriate for the audience and purpose specified in the question. Because we're writing an advertisement for a general audience of local people, we've mentioned that Yorkshire countryside, and we've got all sorts of persuasive techniques that have been used throughout the answer to persuade readers to volunteer. We've also got correct formatting and correct use of paragraphs in the answer. So we have that heading there, and then we've got some contact details. Remember that you could add more organisational features if you wanted to really boost your answer and make it much easier for the reader to read and understand. So now that you have seen this model answer, have a go at writing your own answer to this question and make sure that you are ticking every box and considering all of the different marking criteria. Once you've done that, it might be a good idea to give somebody else your answer and let them have a read through and see if every single sentence makes sense to them.